The greatest feeling you can get in a gym, or the most satisfying feeling you can get in the gym, is the pump.
Scott, this is really in here, man.
I mean, come on, how could we not?
This is classic.
The most famous part of this movie.
Hello, I'm Dr. Mike Israetel. I've got like a PhD in something. I don't know what it is. I don't care. I'm here to review Pumping Iron, who's just one star, Arnold Schwarzenegger, and nobody else. It's just me, Arnold. Mine. Let's get into it. Before I start critiquing, please understand, there are levels of respect, and then above that, there are levels of reverence. And above that, there are gods you're not even allowed to look at to revere. Arnold's above that. So nothing I say here is designed to detract anything from Arnold's insights or wisdom. Here's nothing. This was filmed in the 70s. We learned some shit. And we learned a lot of the shit they were doing because it was right. Some of the stuff I'm going to say is not quite right, and you could do a little bit better, is just because, like, yeah, I have the benefit of having like a PhD in this shit and like 50 years of accumulated knowledge after this was filmed. So I'm not trying to be nitpicky because I'm an asshole. I mean, I'm also an asshole, but that's unrelated currently. So as far as this bicep curl, probably too much swinging in the concentric. Probably is a good decent amount of eccentric control. I do like that. And unfortunately, this position maximizes tension at the very top because that's where the vector to gravity is the highest. And we know now from a considerable amount of research and experience that actually you want most of the tension to be at the lengthened position. And here, unfortunately, because of the way Arnold is bent, the bicep experiences almost no tension at lengthened position. So something like a lying curl, like a lying dumbbell curl, would be just almost objectively better than this. Now, if you wanted to do one-arm concentration curls, Mr. Menno Henselmans has come up with a thing that, again, Jared Feathers says he used to do in high school or some shit like that. Okay, Jared, fine, you invented everything when you were 15. What am I supposed to say to you? And the Menno concentration curl is where you pop your elbow on your leg and you lean back into it so you still get tension at the very bottom. That's a dope version you can try if you insist on doing this exercise, but you want a bit more science in that mouth.
The greatest feeling you can get in a gym.
Scott, this is really in here, man.
I mean, come on, how could we not?
This is classic.
The most famous part of this movie.
Now look, I know that everybody in the year 2024, 2025, they're watching Dr. Andrew Huberman and the masturbation is bad and you're not supposed to come because it drains your dopamine levels. But back in 1976, we didn't have dopamine. We just had coming in the gym. What do I mean by that? Roll camera.
Blood is rushing into your muscles, and that's what we call the pump. Your muscles get a really tight feeling, like your skin is going to explode any minute. You know, it's really tight. It's like somebody blowing air into.
Yeah. It doesn't. There's no R in there. Yeah.
Muscle. It just blows up, and it feels different. It feels fantastic. It's as satisfying to me as coming is. You know, as having sex with a woman and coming.
To quote Arnold, bullshit. Now, I don't mean that literally. Is having an awesome pump in the gym amazing if you kind of like get into that vibe and that culture and you like it? Yes, absolutely, it's awesome. But it's a bit more of like a mental high than the physical experience of nutting. Bullshit. Because like, if you tell someone that getting a pump in the gym feels actually like nutting, you're going to have let them down majorly. They have a bicep pump. They're like, am I flexing wrong? I don't feel anything down there. No, you're not doing anything wrong. It's just, I think Arnold really, really, really liked the pump. And some of us also really, really love the pump. The coming thing is almost always and everywhere an exaggeration. But man, if you like getting the pump this much, I can tell why you were dedicated enough to win 7 Mr. Olympias. Holy crap. Oh yeah. Hey, those look like flexion rows. Now, to be a pedantic asshole, Arnold could be controlling that eccentric more. He could be spending a little bit more time at the bottom. But otherwise, daddy-like. Oh, that's gross to say. Are you guys wigged out? I'm wigged out.
God damn it. Come on. Nice. Let's get laid.
Definitely full range of motion. I love it.
Come on. Horse him on. Let's 11. Come on. Go.
So like, this is actually a really good technique. It's just that Arnold could do the way back slower and just get more out of each rep and a little bit reduce the injury probability of each rep. Another thing I'd have to say is it is profoundly unlikely that you can push your back to your limits with just your regular hand grip strength in a row. Maybe Devin Larratt, who has like the strongest forearms of all time, or maybe Denis Tzaplonkov or whatever, like the professional arm wrestlers might have forearms strong enough to where they can row anything they want and their grip isn't a limiting factor. For the rest of us, your back's just bigger and stronger than your forearms could ever get, even if you push them to absurdity and you have objectively strong forearms. So, for example, for real nerds, I have crushed the Iron Mind 2 and the 2.5 Captains of Crush Gripper, and I've deadlifted with minimum chalk 600 pounds with just my own bare hands. I cannot get within 8 or 9 reps of my best cable row with just my hands. And that means every set I would be doing would be like 8 or 9 reps in reserve, which is nonsense because per the earlier thing Arnold said about you've got to get close to failure and push yourself or else you're nothing, then you're always nothing on every single row. Versa grips are the tools that I use in order to take my grip completely out of the equation. If you've never used Versa grips for your back workouts and you purchase some, you will have the best back workouts of your life. I almost guarantee it in anything but the technical sense, so don't go asking for refunds. Yo, hey, pause. How many of you guys out there started lifting because you thought some shit like this was in your future? You're like, if I just lift enough weights, eventually I'll have females of reproductive age, scantily clad, with, I guess, natural large breasts, physically on my person. And there'll be cameras, and I'll get to display my strength. I'll also be scantily clad, and the women afterwards, I'm gonna tell them after the photo shoot, hey, what are you doing after this? And they start mumbling something that doesn't interest me, and they go, shut up, you're coming home with me because there's more of this. You understand what they mean. And they always do it. This is really the life. I started lifting weights a long time ago, and I've experienced probably negative this. Never been groped by more than 0 women at a time. I never looked like that, and I've certainly never had a vagina on the back of my neck. But you can still dream. And if you can believe, maybe you can achieve.
Arnold, send the exercise.
I can't do it. I used to be Conan. No, wait, that's in the future. I'm gonna be Conan eventually, and I'm not even strong enough to bend the stick. Ladies, help me.
I thought you were strong.
Put your legs behind us.
Don't worry, you idiot. How dare you question me? Get your vagina off of my neck.
Slide back, step back.
Arnold, dude, behind me.
Back.
Franco instantly hits Arnold's probably erect penis. I mean, what's up? What's up with that? You feel me? The ballet girl? You know what I'm saying? She could get it. I mean, learning how to pose.
What you want is mobility. So you want to pass through a position that will keep showing.
No, she's kind of jacked too. You feel me? They could 100% ask her for like delt advice. She's as jacked as 90-pound people get, I guess.
Body, right? So where are your arms?
Like this.
I want you guys to notice something. Arnold doesn't always look like peak Arnold. And there are 2 things to say here. Like in this video here, in this segment, he's clearly jacked. But he's not like mega veiny, ultra pumped 1974 top form, 235 pounds on stage with veins and abs Arnold. There are a couple of reasons for this and some wisdom we can take away from this. One is that periodization means there are times you push your physique hard and times you let off the gas to let everything heal and recover, including the psychological. If you always are pushing your physique as hard as it goes, and you're always on your P's and Q's trying to stay as lean as possible year round, you will burn out. Arnold never burnt out, so we can learn that from him, that pushing and pulling a little bit is always in the mix. It's not just try to be your most jacked and lean ever. This wasn't a concern in Arnold's day. It's a pretty big concern today because social media. If you post a picture of yourself looking a little bit more regular than usual, you'll get people in the comments, you'll get people in your DMs saying, oh, like, what's up? I thought you blah, blah, blah. They just get used to you looking your absolute best because everyone on social media, or most people, only ever put out their best pics. So it's a tough thing to have to admit to yourself, but it's very liberating to know that you don't always have to look your tip-top best. Now, when it's pre-contest, when you're at the end of a fat loss phase, when you're really seriously mass gaining, yes, body's number one priority, but it's not always a thing and doesn't have to be. The other thing is, back in those days, in the 70s, guys would use steroids mostly or only before a show, during show prep, to simultaneously gain muscle and lose fat. Most of the rest of the year, they trained, not as hard typically and not as consistently, but they often just didn't use steroids at all or used a very few of them. Today, that's no longer the case. Most bodybuilders use year-round in some capacity. So was this a healthier time? Yeah, hell yeah, it was. And is this some way that we should really reconsider most of us living like? Yeah, 100%. If you are a top-tier competitive bodybuilder, yeah, you can take it a little bit more intensively, and maybe you don't have to just use steroids pre-contest, but you have to have thought through that whole process really well, and there have to be intense times, lots of steroids, lots of training, lots of diet dedication, and purposefully less intense times. Something they knew back then, but with social media, with competitive pressures, some of us have definitely forgotten, myself included. Stop forgetting what I've told you, you idiot. You can just be on steroids all the time. Look at you. You look like a dwarf, but bald. There's not even like a Lord of the Rings character that describes you. You're pathetic. Where's your beard? You look like Gimli if he had cancer. Nine. Damn, Arnold, that was harsh, bro. Right, Scott? Holy shit.
Start, I would think, with focus up.
Looking up? Looking up.
Looking up. Looking that
To the hand?
Franco, shut up. She's touching me. This is why we're here. Folks, there is still more video to come, but we have an extended mega unrated edition in our members area. If you want to become one of our members, you subscribe. There's a little bit of money involved, but you get tons of videos all the time, consistent content, and every single one of these Exercise Scientist Critiques videos, you get the lengthened version. I should look into lengthened versions for other stuff. Back to the video. Oh yeah. So this is really, really good flying technique. And Arnold's doing something here, which I think he credited to Danny Padilla, who was an incredible bodybuilder in his own right. And he said something like, yeah, it was doing flies and it was touching the dumbbells at the top. And then one of my friends, Danny, he said, you've got to train like the midgets. You've got to train like me. And Danny was very short. I think he was like 5'3" or something. You've got to go all the way down. But then when you come up, just stop like 3/4 of the way and then come down. You get the constant tension and the metabolites. I mean, we weren't using these terms back then, but we're using them now. And honestly, the best part of that whole thing is we know now that lengthened contractile positions grow you more than shortened ones, and that there's very little force in the shortened position anyway. I mean, when you think about it, gravity points down. So from here to here in a dumbbell fly, they ain't kind of dick going on. So unless you use it as a pre-programmed break between every rep, it's totally cool to go all the way down, come up only 2/3 or 3/4 away and come back down. I would highly recommend you try that. It might take flies and boost them to that next level of effect for you in your own training.
This last 2 or 3 or 4 repetitions, that's what makes actually the muscle then grow. And that divides then one from a champion and one from not being a champion. If you can go through this pain barrier, you make it to be a champion.
There's something to that. For whatever genetics you have, if you are really, really not interested in pain and challenge and a little bit of sacrifice, you're probably not going to exploit your genetics as much as possible, and you're not going to build the best physique you could have built. If you do have what it takes to push through, there is a probability that you're going to exploit your genetics and build the best physique you can. However, there are two other sides of the story. One side of the story is that a lot of people have such amazing genetics that just over a long enough time span with enough drugs, they're going to look unbelievable anyway. Phil Heath is a good example of someone who seemingly never really pushed it ultra psychotically, Dorian Yates style hard in the gym, but he's Phil Heath and he looks amazing. The other thing is, if you're one of these people that takes this advice a bit too literally and a bit too at a fine point, you may believe that the more intensity you supply, the more relative effort you push into your own training, the more probability you'll have of being a champion. But that has a bit of a U-shaped curve around it, because if you push yourself ultra hard, ultra high frequency with no breaks, that champion mentality, quote unquote, takes over, you may end up overextending yourself, doing too much work, overreaching, potentially even overtraining, and then you won't get your best results. There's a balance. You have to push yourself hard and then be easy. Push yourself hard and then be easy. That's the real critical thing. So it's helpful to think about pushing hard as an ingredient that makes champions, but it's not the only ingredient. If it's nearly completely absent, you can still make champions without it. And if you overpour hard effort and you don't have the genetics to match, and or you're just a mortal human being like all of us and you do way too much, you can actually get less. This is something to understand, that how hard you train in the gym makes a difference, but there's a middle ground you want to shoot for. Pretty hard most of the time, but taking sufficient breaks, so on and so forth. And also understanding that how hard you train in the gym makes a decent difference on your physique, but it will not build you into a champion by itself. If you do not have the requisite genetics, or if you push it too hard, there's no amount of sprinkling effort that can make you a champion. And I know that's not romantic. And I know that every single motivational Raiden motivation or Machiavelli motivation or Hollywood movie you'll ever see that talks about what it takes to be an athlete likes to paint that perspective of hard work is what builds athletes. And we buy into that culturally. It makes total sense. It's inspirational to us. We're always trying to look at champions and go, okay, like what insight about how hard to work do we get from them? And a lot of times in the real world, we're going to be disappointed, because in the real world, champions are people that have one thing in common. The RP Hypertrophy app removes all uncertainty and makes the training process precisely defined. Choose your pre-made workout plan from dozens available in the app, plug in your weights, and the app takes care of the rest for months of productive training. Ready? Click on the link in the description of this video to get started. Talent and just showing up to most of your training over the long term is the two biggest ingredients that make you a champion. Does how hard you work in practice matter? Yes. But first of all, there's such a thing as going too hard. And second of all, it only makes a small difference. Am I the first person to tell you that? Maybe. Is it true? Yeah, it's unfortunately true. I wish you could just linearly do more effort and get more out of it. It doesn't work like that. Do your best. In context, take nice breaks, see what your genetics makes for you on the back end. If you're not getting the results you want, maybe it's diet, maybe it's more time, maybe it's you're doing the wrong supplements or something. But after you work really hard and get really tired consistently, any more work than that probably won't make you any better. It might make you worse.
Like roadmap back here.
Everyone's stolen that line since then. Yeah, it's a roadmap if you don't know how to read the map, or you're illiterate, or you're blind to something. Where does the road then? Look at my mid-trap. Where does the vein go? Is it like a side street? Is it like the Vegas Strip where it goes nowhere? Shut up. Arnold looked great. Notice that his aesthetics, the proportionality of kind of his arms and his shoulders to his waist, etc., is amazing. His overall size is baller. This was very close to a bodybuilding show. There are just straight up different standards of leanness now. It's important to remember that if you watch this today as a young person, I highly recommend you watch the entirety of Pumping Iron. It's kind of like a religious experience. You have to remember, like, these were the first people to ever get this jacked and lean on a mass scale. And we've made lots of progress in knowledge and competitive aspects since then. So we've been able to push physiques a lot further, but it's cool to simultaneously appreciate the out of Arnold's body. Understand that by today's standards of leanness, no, it does not compare, but also how incredible it was for any time as an awesome aesthetic look, and especially for that time. All right, we're done here, and now I've got to rate Arnold and Pumping Iron out of 10. What does it even mean? How do you even begin to rate a movie out of 10? On what index? Is it entertainment? Is it its lasting cultural value? Is it the fact that every time I do the Arnold voice, I end up spitting little balls of spit into this fucking desk? What the hell is going on? I give this, Dr. Mike is jealous that he would never have the ability to be a Mr. Olympia out of 80. And that's been me. I've been Arnold. Subscribe to things and see you next time. All right, that was really fun. No, it wasn't. Shut up. Anyway, you click on this right here and it's another video, hopefully of Arnold, but probably not. Just do it now.